Hey everybody, Jordan Ostroff here with another one of my top 10 tips for law firm owners. This time we're talking about 10 intake metrics to track. I know that a lot of law firm owners aren't as focused on the sales process and that it becomes overwhelming with where to start. So here are my top 10 metrics to track for intake. If you're only going to track 10, these are the 10 I think you're going to need. That being said, if you are not going to make any decisions from this data, don't worry about it and don't spend the time to do it. And on the flip side, if you have such a large team that you can invest in a lot more than these 10, by all means grab those. I just think that if you have nowhere to start, but you've got some time, this is where to go. Number one, the easy one, the total number of leads. And look, I don't care if this is a lead a month or a lead every 10 minutes. Track the total number of leads. This is going to be the best place for you to start because from there, you're going to be able to make a ton of other decisions in terms of how many leads come in and what you can do with them. All of the other things that you do for the sales process are going to try to maximize these leads turning into cases. And from the marketing side, it's going to try to maximize the number of these leads. Number two, how they found you. And for this, look, sometimes you're just going to have to ask. It's awesome if you have a whole thing built out and you've got all your integrations with Google Ads, or you've got different landing pages. But at the end of the day, I also think you should ask your clients how they found you. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them will give you the wrong reason. And by that, I mean, they may have had their neighbor said that you were a great firm. So then they put you into Google, they found you that way. So when you say, hey, how did you find me? They're going to say through Google, even though really it was referral. Still ask this information. And I want you to go a little bit deeper with this information. Try to get 2 or 3 levels down. So if it's a referral, obviously I want to know who that referral is from, but also what group of person is that? You know, if you're a PI firm like me, you might have a segment for other lawyers. You might have a segment for chiropractors, orthos, other medical providers. You might have a section for prior clients. So it's a referral from John Doe, who's a fellow lawyer. You know, that's what you want. If it's on Google, try to ask them, what did they search for? If it's on Facebook or some other ads platform, you should have a pretty good idea of what ad they clicked on, but try and really get a little bit deeper with them because that's what's going to be super helpful. Because now you're going to know either who talks you up the best from a referral standpoint, what ads perform the best, etc. Number 3, what percentage of those leads are immediately viable? They are what you do, where you do it, and they can afford to hire you. Obviously for PI, the third one's not as big of an issue, but ultimately if you run a huge ad campaign as an estate planning attorney and everyone who comes in is looking for LegalZoom pricing, that's not gonna help you. So it is the need that you solve, it is where you can solve that need, and it is from somebody who has the opportunity to hire you. Number 4, what percentage of those viable leads then book a consult or a strategy session or an initial meeting, whatever it is? Because now we have total number of leads, we have how they found you, we have how many of those are viable. Now it's how many take that next step to a consult. Now there's a button, the percentage of those that then show up to the consult. So the consult is booked, what percentage show up? And look, if you're PI like me and they're going immediately to a lawyer or an intake person, this one may not be as important, but you will start to see as you get busier that especially if you do the consults, people are booking with you a week later, 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, are they still showing up? Now, there's a bunch of things that you can do in this section if this is the problem. You can start having them pay for a consultation that will either make people show up because they're bought in, or it might lessen the number of people that are kicking tires so you can have them show up sooner. But tracking that percentage is going to be important if you're not going immediately from that first call to that consultation. Now, number 6, of those who show up, what percentage of those cases do you still want to have hire you? Yes, they're the right thing that you do. Yes, they're in your practice area, and yes, they can afford you. But is there something that comes up during that consultation that makes them not an ideal fit client? Are you getting those red flags? Are they having trouble staying on topic? Are they complaining about everything? Are they bad-mouthing all of their former lawyers? This is going to help you figure out that you are attracting the right person. So of that percentage who then want to hire you, number 7 becomes what percentage of them actually do end up hiring you. So we took the total number of leads, we have how they found you, we have what percentage were viable, we sent them to that consultation, they showed up, we want them to work with us, and now they're going to sign up. And look, I don't really care what your sign up rate is as long as it's sustainable. If you are personal injury on referrals, you should really be in that 80, 85, 90%. If you are super expensive family law coming from ads, it may be 15%, it may be 20%. The percentage is not going to be as easy to set across the board. However, when you are working on your sales process, that's probably the one that you want to tweak the most. So if you're currently getting 20% to sign up, can you change your follow-up sequence? Can you learn how to do a better consultation? Can you really invest on getting that to 30%? This may be the one that's the most important for you to tweak afterwards, so you have to track it first so you can see how any other changes you make impact this. For example, if you go from paid consultations to free consultations or vice versa, does that impact the percentage of people who sign up with you? If you're doing paid consultations, fewer people should book, but more of them should hire. If you're doing free consultations, more people should book, but fewer of them are hire. But you may not find that out for sure until you actually do this. Number 8, of those who sign up, what is the average value that they are paying? If you have multiple service offerings, are people taking the low end service on average? Are they taking the middle? Are they taking the high end? And look, it's going to be a mix of those. So figure out the average. Criminal defense, you might have the widest band between handling some low-level misdemeanor and a serious felony, but overall, what's the average value of all those cases? For PI, it's the same thing. It's not even really based upon my client, it's based upon the other person's insurance. So I know my average value across all those cases. So I can figure out that from a total number of leads to a certain number of signups to an average case value, how much I'm going to get on average, or how many leads it takes, or how much money has to go into marketing to get the right number of leads to get those signups. You can work backwards with these numbers, but you have to collect them here. Number 9, second to last. Just like in number 2, where we talked about how they found you, number 9 is why they did or did not hire you. And again, you may not get the exact right answers all the time, but you still have to ask for this information. You will be so surprised by the information that you hear. I have had people on $100,000 or $250,000 cases tell me they hired us because we were the only firm that followed up. And so guess what? Anytime we talk about should we follow up, or how often, or when, we are reminded of cases like that. And so we follow up for a while and we follow up quickly, because that's why a lot of these people hire us. If you're finding out that people didn't hire you because the price was too high, great. Are they an ideal client if the price is too high? Then maybe you don't change it. But you may have people say they didn't hire you because it was too cheap. They didn't think they were going to get the right service. And so now that might be a lever for you to change. So ask people these questions and then really focus on the answers. If one person says it, don't really worry about it. If 2 people say it, start investigating. But if you're hearing this from 3, 4, 5 clients over and over again, this might be a problem that you want to solve, or especially if it's price related, it might be something you specifically don't want to solve. And then you're going to move upstream to say, hey, look, why are all these people coming in who don't want to pay what we want to charge? Oh, that's coming in from advertising. Oh, that's coming in from this referral source. Oh, that's coming in from this platform. It may be worth dropping an entire platform, because the reason of the leads that it attracts don't hire you for something you don't want to fix. 10. Last, definitely not least, the time this takes. So I'm looking at a couple different things here for the time it takes. For example, what's the average time from when that lead first contacts you to when they sign up, or when you get paid in the case of PI? It might also be the amount of time that you put into each case or each lead. If you're spending, 30 minutes to an hour on a consultation plus another hour following up with people and putting together a contract and setting these things out, every lead takes you, let's call it 2 hours. If you're finding that you're only signing up 10% of those leads, you're spending 20 hours to get one case. So by tracking the amount of time this takes, you might see times where you are able to save some of this time, cut some things out, automate some things, speed some things up, or slow some things down in the alternative, and really focus on this. For PI, it's especially important to be tracking the time it takes you to get paid on cases. Because if every one of your cases on average costs you $5,000 and takes on average a year to resolve, you have to have 12 months of money times the number of cases times the $5,000 to be able to keep going. So having that metric coming out of your sales process becomes super important. So those are the top 10 intake metrics for you to track. If you have nothing, if you're tracking all of them, great. If you've got a dedicated CMO, if you've got a dedicated intake person, by all means dive in higher than this. If you've got a program like Lawmatics and whatnot, if you've got a dedicated intake person, by all means track more than this. If you've got a program like Lawmatics that's spitting out reports like this, by all means track more than this. But if you have nothing and you're looking to take the first steps, here's a great place for you to start with these 10 tips. I'll see you back here later for another one of our top 10 tips for law firm owners. Until then, have a great day.